Chapter 31. He's scared. He's really scared. At his command, the wolf squad moved in, sending the trained wolves slowly advancing toward the white-eyed monster. Xiao Pa hoped this might rattle their enemy, but it only seemed to amuse him. For a moment, watching the approaching wolves, the white-eyed monster's eyes gleamed with what looked like pride. "Well, guess I've still got my acting skills," he murmured to himself. Xu Yuan looked around at the pack of wolves, a hint of excitement in his eyes. "Oh, I can't wait to see their faces in a bit." Right now, those wolf pups were the players' last hope. They knew, without a doubt, that they were no match for the white-eyed monster's brute strength. So they'd pinned their hopes on the wolves. If these pups could scare off, or better yet, take down the white-eyed monster, they'd actually have a shot at victory. Of course, Xu Yuan was well aware of this. He knew the players would try to use the wolves against him. What he hadn't expected was just how many they'd gathered and how boldly they launched the wolves to attack first. Seems like his previous acting had really left an impression. The thought of this made Xu Yuan's desire to mess with them even stronger. "Well, if you're all so eager to see a show, it'd be rude of me not to give you one." The wolf pups moved closer, inch by inch, toward the white-eyed monster. And the white-eyed monster, in turn, kept moving forward with his army of creatures. The closer they got, the more tense the players grew. 20 meters. 15 meters. 10 meters. They were just about to clash, but the white-eyed monster kept advancing. The players' hearts sank. What's going on? Why is he still moving forward? Isn't he supposed to be afraid of wolves? Why hasn't he backed off? Is it because he's got so many other creatures behind him that he's not scared? Damn it, was he faking it before? The players' hearts were in their throats. Seeing that the white-eyed monster wasn't the least bit afraid of the wolves, any hope they had was quickly smothered. But when the white-eyed monster was just 5 meters away from the wolves, something changed. Just like the first time he'd seen them, the white-eyed monster wrinkled his nose in disgust at the sight of the pups. Then he finally stopped moving forward, standing right where he was. Seeing the look in his eyes, the players felt a weight lift off their chests. He's scared. He's actually scared. Damn it. Scared me half to death. I thought he was faking it all along. So, the wolves do work after all. Afraid now? Go on, take your little minions and scram. Wait, is this monster just really nearsighted or something? Why is he only reacting now that he's so close? The players watching the live stream relaxed as well. If he's scared, then that means the Victory Guild has it in the bag. But it's strange, though. Why did he only look scared when he got so close? Maybe the wolves can only really intimidate him at close range? Even though the monster looked visibly afraid, something still didn't sit right with them. Why did he only seem to react once he was right up close? Was this monster just nearsighted or something? Victory Guild's players, though slightly suspicious, didn't have time to dwell on it. Seeing that the white-eyed monster had shown fear, the players ordered the wolf pups to attack. 15 bones. This time, feast away. Little leg, you remember him, don't you? Go bite him. Look at your dinner. Go get him. One by one, the players barked orders to their wolves. Normally, the wolves would have jumped to obey. But instead, the entire field remained eerily still. A full minute passed, and yet the pups didn't budge from their spots. Victory Guild players were dumbfounded. What's going on? Ergo, don't you want meat anymore? Get in there, already. 15 bones, you ungrateful mutt. After all the bones I've given you, and you won't even work for it? While the players frantically tried to get their wolves to move, the white-eyed monster casually walked up to the pack of pups. Before anyone could react, the monster scanned the wolves, then gave a subtle downward flick of his hand. And in unison, all the wolves sat down obediently. The players stared in shock, their eyes widening as if they'd just seen a ghost. What's happening? What's happening? What the hell is going on here? What are these mutts doing? Wasn't he supposed to be afraid of wolves? What the hell? Are these wolves traitors now? How's this even possible? We trained them ourselves. Why would they follow his orders? The live stream chat exploded. What the heck? Is this even real? What? I'm dumbfounded. He's not afraid of wolves? And the wolves listen to him? I feel like we've been played. No shit. Out on the field, a tense silence settled over the players, who stared at the monster, dumbstruck. The white-eyed monster slowly crouched, patting a wolf pup's head with a satisfied smile. Then he lifted his gaze toward the players on the city wall. In his eyes was pure contempt, and a crooked smile crept across his face. Seeing the monster's expression, the players felt a chill run down their spines. At that moment, they finally realized they'd been tricked. The white-eyed monster's fear of wolves? All an act. He was never afraid of wolves. In fact, he could control them. Now, seeing that wicked smile on his face, the players felt their legs go weak. It's over. It's all over. I'm such an idiot. How could a monster this powerful be afraid of wolves? Damn it. He fooled every single one of us. In the live stream, the scene left Steve speechless. He'd had an idea of what was coming, but never in his wildest dreams had he imagined the white-eyed monster would play the players for fools, again. He had everyone's reactions wrapped around his finger. He'd given them hope, only to snuff it out mercilessly. With his power, he could have destroyed the players outright, no need for theatrics. But he'd chosen to go this route. And the reason was clear: to shatter their spirit. To make them realize that the hope they clung to was just a trick he'd dangled before them. That hope, it had never even existed. Womp womp. As Steve thought about this, he couldn't help but tremble. If he'd been fooled from the start, facing down this monster now, how hopeless would he feel? A devil? He's nothing short of a devil. The once lively livestream had gone deathly quiet. No one dared type in chat. When the players finally processed what had happened, a chill ran down their spines. Did I see that right? Was he smiling? You saw it right. He was definitely smiling. We couldn't see his face clearly, but that expression, absolute scorn and disdain, this is terrifying. Did he set up his fear of wolves from the very beginning? I can't even imagine. If I were in their shoes right now, I'd be utterly crushed. Getting insta-killed and dropping items isn't the worst part. The worst part is, he played us all? Damn it, this feeling sucks. He's been leading us by the nose this whole time. That white-eyed monster's mind games are insane. Chapter 32, No Giving Up. Even the livestream audience felt suffocated, so you can imagine how the members of the Triumph Guild felt standing there on the battlefield. Seeing that mocking look on the white-eyed monster's face, they realized how foolish they had been. Their fighting spirit had just been completely shattered by this one trick. Their only hope had been the wolves, and in the end, that hope turned out to be nothing but bait left by the white-eyed monster himself. From start to finish, they never stood a chance. Whether it was power or strategy, the white-eyed monster completely dominated them. Screw this, what's the point of fighting? All those hours grinding for gear, just to lose it all at once? This is ridiculous. We've really taken overestimating ourselves to a new level. In his eyes, we probably look like clowns. The players had already lost their will to fight. They all turned their eyes to Xiaop. As guild members, they couldn't just act on their own. More than anything, they wanted Xiaop to give the order to retreat. After all, if they couldn't win, maybe they could still escape with their equipment. Seeing this, Xiaop was ready to throw in the towel. The wolves had been his only trump card, and with them turning on him, there was no point in continuing this battle. But then he looked at the eyes of his guildmates and hesitated. If he ordered a retreat now, how embarrassing would that be? Surrendering without even putting up a fight would ruin the guild's reputation. It had taken Xiaop so much effort to build this guild, investing a lot of time and energy. No way he wanted all of that to go down the drain. Damn it. We have to at least give it a try. Sitting at the top, Xiaopo's mindset was naturally different from the average player. They just wanted to keep their gear. He cared about his pride and the guild's reputation. They could grind for new equipment, but reputation? Once lost, it's hard to rebuild. With that in mind, Xiaopa quickly started barking out orders. Elite squad, move up front. You're in full iron sets. Those explosions won't do much damage. We've got 20,000 people. That monster's mob has what, 5,000 max? Our gear wasn't for nothing. Show them what the fourth calamity is all about. Following Xiaopo's command, the players, though reluctant, had no choice but to obey. At this point, there was no turning back. The elite squad, fully armored in iron sets, moved up to the front, each holding a sword and a shield. They looked decently strong. After all, iron armor offered solid protection. Even against creepers, they wouldn't lose too much health, and with their iron shields, they could still put up a fight against these monsters. Seeing the Triumph Guild members prepare for a final stand, even the viewers in the live stream started getting fired up. Yeah. No giving up. Even if we can't take down the white-eyed monster, let's at least take out a few minions. That white-eyed monster is way too cocky. We've got to knock him down a peg. Let him know he can't just win that easily. We players aren't pushovers. Even if we can't kill him, we'll make sure he regrets it. In war, morale is everything. That's why leaders always give motivational speeches to rally their troops before a battle. And now, while Triumph Guild might have been on the verge of giving up, they were also ready for a desperate fight. Just as the players braced themselves for the final stand. From both the east and west, another wave of monsters emerged. These were the ones who had been attacking the eastern and southern walls earlier. It seemed the white-eyed monster had called them back. Looks like the white-eyed monster was getting serious. Seeing the monsters advancing, the players from Triumph Guild held their positions, wary of making any rash moves. It wasn't until the monsters got closer that they got a good look at them. The monsters were divided into 3 groups. Each group was led by one of 3 monsters: a zombie, a baby zombie, and a vindicator. The 3 monsters soon joined the white-eyed monster's side. Only then did the players get a clear look at them. These 3 monsters were decked out in full gear. The zombie and baby zombie were both wearing sets of gear that glowed with a dazzling blue light. The vindicator, on the other hand, was equipped with iron armor but wielded an axe that also emitted a blue glow. The players were dumbfounded. These monsters, they're wearing gear? And that blue glow? What kind of gear is that? It looks powerful. Is that diamond armor? Diamond armor? Monsters have diamond armor now? The game was still in its early stages, and many players hadn't even acquired full iron sets, let alone diamonds. With diamonds being so scarce in the game, most players had only seen them in posts from top players online. At this stage, anyone who had even a diamond sword was treated like a legend. And here, not just a sword, but entire diamond sets were right in front of them. The Triumph Guild players were paralyzed. They thought they were doing pretty well with their iron gear, only to find that a mere monster henchman was decked out in what they could only dream of. Seriously, we worked ourselves to death, and a random monster is better equipped than us. Diamond armor. They even gave it to their underlings? Looking at that gear, I actually want to switch sides. White-eyed boss, how about recruiting me? Honestly, is there even a point in fighting this out? The Triumph Guild players had thought they could scrape by, relying on their gear. But seeing these monsters' gear made them want to give up. They thought they'd have the upper hand in equipment, but it turned out they were the ones getting crushed. Those diamond sets gleamed with an intense blue light in the dark, though to the Triumph Guild players, it felt like a harsh glare that burned their souls. When the 3 leading monsters came closer, the other monsters behind them also stepped up. In the front row, except for those monsters who couldn't wear armor, they were all in full iron sets. Even the weaker mobs in the back had at least 1 or 2 pieces of iron gear. The Triumph Guild players could only shake their heads and let out a bitter laugh. Don't stop me, I'm heading to Gotham to challenge Batman. Man, I feel ridiculous. Just a minute ago, I was smug about my gear. Damn it, I've played so many games, and this is the first time I've been outclassed by the monsters. I'm tired. Let the world burn. At that moment, the livestream viewers, seeing the monsters' gear, were flooding the screen with question marks and exclamation points. WTF? What is this? Is this supposed to be fair? Diamond armor. Diamond armor. Even the monsters are wearing diamond armor. I used to think Triumph Guild had decent gear, but after seeing these monsters... Sorry, I was naive. White-eyed boss, please, let me be one of your minions. I'll be the best henchman you could ask for. Hey, consider me. I've got unlimited respawns. Today, we've reached new levels of absurdity. Absurdity has found a new home. This is a complete power imbalance. Don't even bother fighting, just surrender. Even Steve couldn't help but swallow nervously when he saw the monster's gear. I really underestimated his strength. In Steve's eyes, the white-eyed monster was already immensely powerful. But he hadn't expected it to be to this extent. The white-eyed monster didn't just possess strength, he also had a rare charisma. His war strategies, his planning, and his vision were unparalleled. And most astonishing of all, he understood the game inside and out. From his knowledge of wolves, to building a safe structure, to equipping the monsters with armor. Everything pointed to his deep understanding of the game. Even the fact that all the monster minions carried axes instead of swords showed he knew the game mechanics inside out. Most players defaulted to crafting swords. Chapter 33, I remember them. Axes, to most people, are just for chopping wood. But anyone who really digs into this game knows that axes pack a stronger punch than swords, making them better suited as weapons. Realizing this, Steve's skin prickled all over. That white-eyed monster was terrifying. Even without his powerful skills or the ability to control creatures, Steve was sure he could wipe out everyone here with barely any effort. The monster's cunning and deep understanding of the game alone would be enough to take them all down. Right now, these players didn't even stand a chance against his lowly minions. Hope I never run into him again. Steve muttered, recalling how he once thought that with time, he might stand a chance against this white-eyed menace. But now, he realized how laughable that idea was. The monster was leagues ahead, and he was only getting stronger, growing just as rapidly as the players. They'd never catch up to him. Sure, cutting off his player hunting spree might slow his growth, but even then he'd still outpace the players by miles. You could tell just by the gear on his creatures. At this moment, the players of the Triumph Guild, staring down the monster's equipped henchmen, lost any will to fight. As the monsters crept closer, some of the veteran players suddenly recognized them. Wait, that little zombie. I know him. That's the same one that broke through our barricade and attacked us. Damn. You're right. I remember him. He's got that scar on his right cheek. And that zombie in diamond armor, no way. It's the one who attacked us before, the dark-skinned zombie with the athlete build. And that creepy Enderman. That's the one with that nasty, pervy grin. And that little skeleton. I remember him, too. 2 broken ribs from last time. Several veterans who had faced these monsters firsthand recognized them instantly. Monsters may look similar in-game, but each has subtle differences. Like zombies, some are missing limbs, some are more decayed, with patches of skin rotting in deep greens or purples. The attack at the barricade had been a nightmare, leaving these players with a vivid memory of the creatures that took them down. Now, seeing them again, they finally realized what was going on. These monsters that killed us, they've been promoted to his henchmen? That's just too much of a coincidence. It was him all along. If he was messing with us back then, why didn't he just wipe us out? Why wait until today? You think he's been training them this whole time? You mean, all we were good for was helping his minions practice? He hasn't even said a word, but everything he's done, it's such a slap in the face. So, from the very beginning, he didn't see us as anything but toys. Seeing the creatures that had once attacked them, the players' morale hit rock bottom. They had thought they'd been facing random, mindless monsters, but no, this white-eyed creature had planned it all, using them like puppets. They weren't even worth acknowledging in his eyes. In the live stream, viewers were puzzled by Triumph Guild's conversation. They're saying they've seen these monster bosses before? What previous incident are they talking about? They look really freaked out. What happened? Ever since Xiaopa found the barricade exploit, he'd banned streaming there, so the audience had no idea what had happened. Steve, seeing the confusion in the chat, jumped in to explain. Alright, everyone hold on. Once this battle is over, I'll tell you everything that went down. The chat exploded with curiosity after Steve's promise. Steve sounds like this is something serious. I knew it. When that white-eyed freak ran off after the wolves attacked, I said something was up. There's gotta be a bigger story here. You're saying the white-eyed monster set all this up? No way, that's terrifying. Oh, but the more I think about it, the creepier this gets. Now I really want to know what happened that's got the whole guild freaking out. Steve's words sent a wave of speculations through the players. Many guessed that the battle was part of some grand scheme by the white-eyed creature, but they couldn't piece together the details. They only knew that Triumph Guild had supposedly developed a new method for safe farming. What they didn't know was that even this safe farming strategy had been planted by the white-eyed monster himself. Steve shook his head with a wry smile, reading the comments. Getting spooked already? Wonder what they'll think when they hear the whole truth. The players had only scratched the surface, and it was already enough to make their skin crawl. Steve was just as curious to see how they'd react once they knew the full story. But their fear, he thought, was a good thing. If a mere hint of the truth could convince players to stay away, then maybe, once everything was revealed, no one would dare to challenge the white-eyed monster again. That was the goal of his broadcast, after all. By now, the Triumph Guild players had pieced together enough of the truth to lose all will to fight. Every part of this plan had been orchestrated by the white-eyed monster, and they'd been nothing but his pawns, moving step by step exactly as he wanted. Now, if he wanted them gone, all he had to do was lift a finger. It would be as simple as brushing a pawn off the board. Having come to terms with this reality, many players had lost the desire to resist. All they wanted now was for this nightmare to end. Each glance at that monster felt like a fresh wave of humiliation. Seeing the players completely broken, Xu Yuan wasted no time. In a single teleport, he appeared above the guild's fortress wall, looking down on the battlefield. With a sweeping motion of his hand, he commanded, "Attack!" The cold, emotionless word echoed across the plains, sounding to the guild players like their death knell. The moment the word dropped, the monsters surged forward. Leading the charge were 007 and 520, clad in full diamond gear. Their brute strength and sheer power sent them tearing through the players as if nothing could stand in their way. Each swing of their weapons took down another player in iron armor instantly. What the hell kind of attack is this? Full iron and still got one shot? Damn it. That little zombie's way too fast. I can't even keep track of him. Shields. Build up and raise your shields. Unable to hold off 007 and 520, players began frantically building up, shielding themselves. Some held their shields tight to guard against any stray arrows. But then, suddenly, that sleazy grinning Enderman, Little Black, appeared right behind them, cradling a creeper about to explode. Before the players could even react, there was a deafening boom as the creeper detonated, blowing the tower of players off their perch. What the hell? An Enderman with a creeper. Is this mobile bomb delivery now? How are we supposed to fight this? The players quickly realized that building up with shields was pointless. If Little Black didn't blow them off, Little White would snipe them from behind. Some tried building higher to evade them, only to find that phantoms had appeared out of nowhere, knocking them down with terrifying speed. Others tried digging down and filling in the gaps, only to be blasted out by creepers led right to them by Little Black. The viewers in the livestream chat, seeing the carnage unfold, all gasped in shock. Chapter 34, Crushing Them with Pure Intelligence. These monsters are way too damn strong. Enderman with creepers? How did that freak with the white eyes even think of this? This is insane. How are we supposed to fight this? We can't beat them and we can't escape. It's hopeless. I never thought I'd get pushed this far by monsters. And the worst part? That white-eyed freak hasn't even joined the fight yet. This is brutal. I can't bear to watch anymore. At this point, the players of the Triumph Guild couldn't win and couldn't run. They were truly stuck, frustration boiling over. If they were going down, they figured they might as well take a few monsters with them. And if they were going to do that, might as well target the leaders, the ones the white-eyed freak had trained personally. Screw this. No point in running. Let's take them down. Yeah. Let's at least take out a few of them. We'll respawn, but these monsters won't. Brothers, stop dodging. For everyone we kill, it's a win for us. Let's go. Right? Focus on the leaders. Even if we die, we'll make it worth it. The Triumph Guild players rallied, surrounding the leading monsters, 007, 520, 88, and 233. Sure, they could barely survive one hit from these creatures, but there were so many players. If they kept piling on and some got in a few hits, they could wear one down eventually. Even taking down one would be a victory. With this plan in mind, the Triumph Guild players went all out, swarming monsters like 007, 520, and 101, the ones that couldn't teleport. They threw themselves forward, weapons swinging. And surprisingly, their all-or-nothing charge actually seemed to work. For every 10 players that went down, at least one managed to land a hit. The blows barely scratched the diamond-armored monsters, but with enough numbers, it started to add up. With sheer persistence, they chipped away at 007 and 520's health, until it was down to half. Seeing this, the players' spirits lifted. We've got a shot. Come on, guys. They're below half health. Keep going. If we keep this up, we'll take them down soon. The Triumph Guild players were backed into a corner. Even a dog will leap over a wall when it's cornered, right? So imagine a group of players with blood boiling. They knew winning was a long shot, but if they were going to die, they were going to make that white-eyed freak pay somehow. There was no way they'd let him claim victory that easily. Watching the Triumph Guild players put up such a fierce struggle fired up the viewers in the livestream chat too. These guys are real heroes. Let's go. Take down a few of those leaders. Yeah. Don't let that white-eyed freak win so easily. This is our game. Show him what players can do. Bring it. Make those 2 diamond sets drop. Monsters can't respawn. Every one you kill counts. Keep pushing. Nice. Wear them down just like this. They're almost out of health. One last push. The Triumph Guild players, encouraged by their progress, threw themselves into the fight with even more energy, keeping up the relentless assault. Then, out of nowhere, a glass bottle came flying through the air and shattered over the head of one of the leader monsters. The liquid inside instantly soaked into the monster's skin. Before the Triumph Guild players even had time to realize what had happened, the monster's health shot back up to full. They were stunned, looking at each other in shock. What just happened? Was that the potion? Looked like some kind of witch's brew? Where did that potion even come from? They looked up toward the wall, and only then saw the source. There, standing on the wall, was the white-eyed freak himself. With a flick of his wrist, another potion appeared in his hand, which he promptly tossed down to another injured monster. Every time he threw a potion, the monster's health restored to full. Seeing this absurd display, the Triumph Guild players' morale shattered. What the hell? He's a healer too? Damn it, what are we even supposed to do here? We grind their health down, and he just fills it right back up? He's ruthless. Leaves us zero hope at all. Fine, I'm out. I'll just kill myself. Happy now? Kinda. Any glimmer of hope the Triumph Guild players had was snuffed out once more. And the worst part? It wasn't like they'd planned on winning. They just wanted to drag down a few monsters with them, die a little less pointlessly. But even that small hope was completely crushed by the white-eyed freak. In the end, the Triumph Guild players completely gave up. Their will was broken beyond repair. This wasn't even a battle anymore. It was a one-sided massacre. It wasn't just the dying that scared them. What really frightened the players was how every single move they made seemed to be predicted by the white-eyed freak. Even their last-minute attempt to gang up on the leader monsters was something he'd seen coming. And he knew exactly how to play with their emotions. He could have healed the monsters as soon as they started taking damage. But he didn't. Instead, he waited, watching them struggle and fight, letting them think they had a chance. Then he crushed their hopes completely, in one swift move. He had done this to them so many times now. It was pure, psychological torment. Once is bad enough, but they had gone through this emotional roller coaster multiple times in just the last 10 minutes. Anyone's sanity would crack under this. The Triumph Guild players finally understood. Right now, the only way out was to stop fighting and accept their fate. And so, realizing this, they dropped their weapons and stopped attacking, letting the monsters do as they pleased. The despair radiating from the Triumph Guild players was so strong it almost oozed out of the screen. Watching this, even the viewers in the live stream found it hard to keep watching. This is so hopeless, thank God I'm not down there. That white-eyed freak is a master manipulator. He keeps giving them hope just to rip it away. I'm actually terrified. That feeling of being completely played with is just too much. I pray I never run into him, or I might end up with some serious trauma. I'm losing it just watching this stream. Imagine being one of those players down there. At this point, Steve didn't want to keep streaming. Sure, he wasn't in the battle himself, but even just watching it made him feel uneasy. It was suffocating, the kind of helpless frustration that leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. Every time players faced these monsters, they weren't just getting defeated, they were being humiliated. And there was absolutely nothing they could do about it. Each time they came up with a new strategy, it ended up backfiring and only serving to mock them further. Nothing they tried worked. They were constantly under his thumb, unable to even make a dent. It was oppressive, the kind of thing that makes you want to quit playing altogether. Who would put up with something like this? Getting crushed by a monster is one thing, but having no chance to fight back at all? If it were just raw power overwhelming them, that'd be easier to swallow. After all, strength can be earned and developed over time. But this was just pure, unrelenting intellect, steamrolling them with no mercy. What could they possibly do against that? Reincarnate and hope for a fresh start? Steve would have stopped the stream long ago if it weren't for the work he still had to do. Thankfully, it seemed like even the Triumph Guild players realized this. One by one, they had given up and stopped fighting. With no resistance left, the battle would be over soon. As the Triumph Guild players stopped resisting, the entire fight wrapped up in under 20 minutes. Chapter 35, A Masterclass in Strategy. At this moment, the vast grassland lay eerily silent, save for one survivor, Steve. Little Wu's first-person livestream had long since gone dark. Now, all players could only view the aftermath through the main broadcast. Bleak Novel Station 1799433164. Across the battlefield, monsters were combing through the wreckage. Player-dropped gear was now worn by these monsters, their losses so minimal as to be almost irrelevant, barely 200 to 300 monsters in total. From the start, only the well-equipped monsters were sent to fight. Once the players lost all will to resist, the rest emerged to clean up. This, of course, was all part of the strategy devised by the white-eyed monster. He wanted to maximize his gains with the fewest losses. Looking at the ruins of the Triumph Guild, viewers in the chat fell into a stunned silence, unsure of what to say. It felt like any words would be redundant. Finally, as the battle drew to a close, Steve exhaled deeply, switching his camera to third-person mode. His face was serious as he said, "All right, it's time to break down what just happened." Seeing Steve's grave expression, the viewers braced themselves. He hadn't entered the battle to lead directly but had stayed on the sidelines, streaming, an unusual move that had unsettled many from the start. Plus, Steve had mentioned he'd explain everything afterward, making it clear this was far from an ordinary fight. The thought unnerved players even more. Just watching the broadcast, they'd been shocked by the scale of the fight. But Steve's tone hinted there was a whole hidden layer to the story, adding a chilling sense of dread. What could make Steve look like that? This doesn't feel right. Do you think he knew we'd lose from the start? Why else would he stay on the sidelines, just streaming? Damn, this is killing me. Something big must have gone down. I want to know, but I'm kinda scared. We just watched that insane fight. What could possibly surprise us now? I wouldn't even be shocked if Steve told us the white-eyed monster was the game master. It would honestly explain a lot. For real, after seeing that battle, anything seems possible now. The viewers, oblivious to the deeper horror still lurking, felt they'd seen it all. Nothing Steve could say would shake them further, or so they thought. Taking a deep breath, Steve began his story. It started when I first ran into the white-eyed monster. Let's just call him that for simplicity. He continued, from the start I posted about him because he struck me as different, like he had a mind of his own. When he first saw me, he didn't kill me immediately. I can't say if that was part of his plan or just a twist of fate. I was the only one left alive, and I made that post, which led all of you here to this grassland out of sheer curiosity. Regret flickered across Steve's face. If he hadn't posted about that encounter, so many people wouldn't have come, and the white-eyed monster wouldn't have grown stronger by taking them down. This revelation nagged at Steve. Was their initial encounter itself a setup? Had the white-eyed monster planned it all? With a heavy sigh, Steve continued, after that, we had the infamous Brother Mang livestream incident. And then, shortly after, came the monster's first siege. A lot of you watched that unfold, right? Viewers started piecing it together. Yeah, I remember. He wasn't that powerful back then, he only controlled around 100 monsters, right? Isn't that the time he got scared off by those wolves? Looking back, his acting was on point. I remember Steve leading that fight. We completely wiped out his forces. Steve nodded, acknowledging their comments. Yeah, I led that battle. But there were some things that never quite added up. First, I'd only fortified the north wall, leaving the east, west, and south undefended. Yet, the white-eyed monster just happened to attack from the north, though he hit multiple points along the wall. He knew how to break through different spots, so why only attack one side? Second, he initially sent low-level monsters to attack, only moving in after they'd all been killed. With his intelligence, why would he make such a blunder? Third, his strength was off the charts. Those wolves should have posed no threat to him, yet he acted terrified of them. With all of these in mind, it's obvious he let us win that fight on purpose. To the viewers, none of this was surprising anymore. They'd already guessed he was faking it, especially considering he could control wolves now. But what they couldn't grasp was why he'd staged that whole performance. Many viewers voiced their confusion. Noticing the questions, Steve explained, his goal was to attract more players to this place. He paused, then asked, "You've all heard of Triumph Guild's zero-damage monster farming guide, right?" The viewers grew puzzled. We know about it. But why bring that up now? Does this have something to do with the white-eyed monster? Wait, are you saying he leaked that guide to lure people here? No way. That would mean he's putting his own minions at risk, right? Steve's mention of the guide sparked all kinds of theories. While some players thought it was absurd, Steve nodded, confirming their suspicions. Yes, the zero-damage guide was his idea. He taught it to Xiaopo, knowing Xiaopo would spread it and attract more players to the grassland, creating a mass slaughter. And Xiaopo, he continued, played right into his hands. As he spoke, Steve shared images of the trapdoor tunnel he and his friends had found. He also revealed the conclusions they'd reached after a long, hard analysis. Finally convinced, the players fell silent. They sat there, absorbing the truth. After a long pause, someone finally spoke up. This goes beyond words. I thought that last battle was already insane. Damn, what is this thing? His whole strategy is layered, like a perfect web. He leaves no gaps at all, and every single piece of it played out exactly as he intended. That's the scariest part. Going by Steve's logic, Xiaopo was just an ordinary player, but he was able to manipulate him perfectly, which means he could manipulate most of us. That's terrifying. He has everyone's psyche down to a science. He'd even sacrifice his own kind to get what he wants. Ruthless. This level of planning, it's like a textbook in game domination. Seeing that the players finally believed him, Steve exhaled a sigh of relief. His biggest fear was that they'd think he was imagining it all. But after a battle like this, he doubted anyone would underestimate the white-eyed monster again. Next, let's talk about those guild players who said they'd seen those armored monsters before. That was all part of his plan too. He didn't just focus on his own power. He's been building a team, training those monsters to become leaders. And you've seen firsthand just how strong those armored ones are. Steve paused, then asked the crowd, "So, what do you think? Are we any match for them? That question hit viewers like a punch to the gut. They didn't even need to think about it. The answer was obvious. They were nowhere near the white-eyed monster's level. Whether it was his strength, his cunning, his tactics, or his understanding of the game, he had them all beat. Viewers couldn't help but imagine themselves in Steve's shoes, alone in that grassland, getting played at every turn by this monster without even realizing it until it was too late. Just the thought of moving through a world so meticulously designed against you, unaware you were merely a pawn, was suffocating. Still, even though they understood they weren't his equal, one question lingered. Why was Steve telling them all this? Chapter 36, Rise of Him. Was Steve just trying to scare everyone? Make them realize how weak they were? That didn't make much sense. It wouldn't really benefit him or the players, right? The players mulled it over until Steve finally broke the silence, clearing up their confusion. The reason I'm telling you all of this, he began, is because I found the white-eyed monster's weakness. Gasps and whispers spread like wildfire. And this weakness only becomes a weakness if all of us work together. His words were vague, and players exchanged bewildered looks. Weakness? He has a weakness. What does he mean, only if we work together? Wait, is he recruiting players to fight against that thing? No way. He just said we aren't strong enough to face it. Their chatter filled the air until Steve held up a hand, finally revealing the answer. The white-eyed monster's weakness, Steve announced, is that he can't track us down on his own. His voice was steady, unshaken. Everything he's done, the traps, the ambushes, they're just him trying to lure us in. It's proof that he has no idea where we actually are. So, he continued, all we need to do is keep it that way. Don't let him find us. Don't walk into his traps. That alone will hold him back. Since he needs to take down more players to get stronger, us staying hidden keeps him from growing. Sure, we might not be able to defeat him now, but as long as we slow him down, we'll eventually have the strength to take him on. Steve's final words, the part about taking him on someday, wavered slightly, betraying his own uncertainty. But he knew he had to say it. The players needed hope, even if it felt slim. He wasn't just saying it for them, he was saying it for himself. Because no matter what, as long as the white-eyed monster existed, Steve knew they'd face him again one day. Better to make him their target? Use him as a reason to grow and improve. Hearing this, the players nodded in agreement. True. He's probably getting stronger by hunting us down. If we stop letting him find us, that messes up his whole plan. Exactly. No need to pick a fight when we're not ready. Quietly build up strength, give him nothing to gain from us. That's how we'll win. It's like a weakness, sure. If he can't find a big enough group of us, he'll slow down. Honestly, after seeing that massacre, who's even going to try and fight him? We'll just level up in peace. Steve's words hit home, and they all knew he was right. The best move was to focus on their own growth, keep a low profile, and avoid any unnecessary deaths. This would slow down the white-eyed monster's growth significantly. Previously, it was only the players' arrogance that had fueled the monster's rapid rise. Now, with everyone aware of the threat, they wouldn't be giving him that advantage again. Seeing the players settle on this decision, Steve finally felt relieved. All his effort in rallying them had paid off. With everyone on board, he decided to share one last bit of helpful info. He posted the Geno damage grinding guide to his forum thread. Here's a way to farm safely, he wrote. Use it well, and keep building your strength. Afterward, Steve ended the broadcast. He wasn't the selfish type, after all. Besides, this strategy was relatively straightforward. If it hadn't been for the white-eyed monster's interference, he probably would have figured it out on his own. While this guide wasn't game-changing in terms of efficiency, it gave players something productive to work on at night. It wasn't a secret worth hiding. Sharing it would only boost his reputation and help players level up faster. Even if they couldn't yet stand up to the white-eyed monster, at least they'd be better prepared to handle weaker enemies. As soon as Steve posted the guide, the players were ecstatic. Whoa! Thanks, Steve. Big shout out to Steve. What a legend. Is he planning to start a guild soon? I'm signing up if he does. Steve's strategic mind is off the charts. Total respect. Suddenly, I don't know who to thank more, Steve or the white-eyed monster. When Steve signed off, the players had gained a much deeper understanding of the white-eyed monster. They knew now they weren't strong enough to face him head-on. The players from the Triumph Guild hadn't watched the broadcast, but they didn't need to. They'd already experienced the monster's terror firsthand. They had no intention of staying in that accursed field any longer. As for Xiao Pe, after this disastrous battle, he was in no position to continue as guild leader. And now that the footwork shack incident was exposed, his shame only grew. In the end, he disbanded the guild. Triumph Guild had risen to prominence overnight, only to collapse just as quickly. Their base, which once rivaled the newbie village itself, was now a desolate wreck. No one would be visiting that place anytime soon. That night, the white-eyed monster had taught everyone a harsh lesson. After this, no player would challenge his authority lightly. Yes, they feared his strength, but that battle had also won him some admirers. Even though none of them had seen his face, the aura he exuded captivated many. That kingly presence, as if he was above all things, gave him a unique allure as a villain. Because of this, some players began brainstorming a nickname for him. He really needs a name. White-eyed monster just doesn't sound right. How about white-eyed bro? Let's just call him the Demon King. He's got that vibe, right? Demon King? Sounds a bit much. Maybe a little demon? What about calling him just him? Isn't that how Steve's been referring to him? That might get confusing. Why not use the English term? Him, capital letters. Him. That's got a certain ring to it. Yeah, let's go with him. It's kinda cool. Once the name him was settled, the players quickly latched onto it. The Demon King him had officially arrived. If Xu Yuan knew the players were calling him this, he'd probably be stunned. Some things, perhaps, are just meant to be. In the original game, him was short for Herobrine in Minecraft. Here, though the meaning was different, the result was the same. In this world, Xu Yuan wasn't as mysterious as the original him, but he had achieved a Demon King-like status in the players' minds. Dawn broke over the plains as Xu Yuan led his monsters into the dense forest. The battle had yielded bountiful rewards. As his monsters fought, Xu Yuan had received a steady stream of system notifications for successful tamings. Opening his taming system, he surveyed his current roster. Zombie 007 and Mini-Zombie 520 were close to achieving higher consciousness, only 1,000 or so player kills away. To break through to advanced awareness, a monster needed to kill 10,000 players, meaning these two had wiped out thousands in this single battle. They were progressing well, and with their current strength, it wouldn't be long before they leveled up. Spider 101, Little Black 88, and White 233, along with several summoned illagers, had also reached mid-level awareness after the battle. Xu Yuan could clearly see the change in their expressions. They were his first monsters, hand-trained by him, and their strength reflected that. They were skilled enough to handle players with ease. Moreover, Xu Yuan now had around 2,000 newly tamed monsters with low-level awareness. This growth was by design. He'd orchestrated the battle by sending his strongest monsters, like Zombie 007, in first to weaken the players. Then, after breaking their spirit, he deployed weaker monsters to clean up. This way, the players put up minimal resistance, allowing the weaker monsters to rapidly reach the 10-player kill threshold needed to gain low-level awareness. The more monsters that leveled up, the greater Xu Yuan's potential gains in the future. In total, Xu Yuan now commanded over 20 mid-level monsters and over 2,000 low-level monsters. These were his foundation, his seeds of chaos. All he had to do was release them across the land and let them grow on their own. How far they'd go, Xu Yuan didn't know. But he hoped that someday, at least a few would achieve true independent consciousness. For now, that goal remained distant, requiring both power and luck. Chapter 37 him. Xu Yuan didn't expect these creatures to develop any sense of free will. But once he figured out how to track the players' positions, things would get a lot easier. He could even lead this whole pack of creatures himself. After turning off the taming system, he opened up the information panel. Seeing the 3 million kill points he'd racked up, he couldn't help but smile. Totally worth it. Even though the setup had been a pain, seeing that kill count made it all feel worthwhile. With over 3 million kill points, Xu Yuan could give his powers a serious upgrade. Time to level up some skills? Sure, he still needed another 2 million points to unlock the Twilight Forest mod, but getting that many kills without a clue on the player's location would be a slog. He decided it was smarter to invest those points into his power instead. After spending 2 million kill points, Xu Yuan's skills underwent a massive transformation. Explosion LV5 consumes 5% of your health, deals area damage across a 100 by 100 range, 5's cooldown. Upgrade cost, 1 million kill points. Teleport LV5. Instantly teleport within a 1000 range radius, can carry objects or creatures within a 5 by 5 range, 5's cooldown. Upgrade cost, 1 million kill points. Clone LV5. Summon a clone at the cost of 10% health. Clone inherits 50% of the main body's power. Example, if the main body has explosion LV5, the clone will have explosion LV3. Upgrade cost, 1 million kill points. Strong Web LV5. Launches a web with hardness of 50 to trap a target, reducing movement speed by 150%. Upgrade cost, 1 million kill points. Invisibility LV5. Allows you to blend into any block and move stone blocks. Upgrade cost, 1 million kill points. Death Axe LV5. Summon an iron axe that deals 100% damage to an enemy's max health in one strike. Ominous Sign LV5. Triggers an ominous sign aura, summoning a patrol squad, includes pillagers, vindicators, ravagers, and evokers, around you, 1 minute cooldown. Upgrade cost, 1 million kill points. Summon Phantoms LV5. Summons 5 to 6 phantoms to assist in combat, 1 minute cooldown. Upgrade cost, 1 million kill points. Xu Yuan upgraded every skill he thought might come in handy to level 5. During past upgrades, he'd noticed a steep jump in kill points required once skills hit level 4. After level 4, every skill cost at least 100,000 kill points to upgrade. It was only after pushing everything to level 5 that Xu Yuan finally understood the significance. Reaching level 5 for these skills was a major breakthrough. And that's why each skill needed a whopping 1 million kill points to upgrade further. Take Teleport, for example. It went from a set distance to coordinate-based teleportation. Even though it's limited to a 1000 range radius, this is a massive improvement. Xu Yuan figured if he kept leveling it, the range would expand further. Maybe at a certain point, he'd be able to teleport to any spot he wanted without any range restrictions. In other words, Xu Yuan finally felt like a real boss. After upgrading his skills, Xu Yuan tested each of them out. The skill that pleasantly surprised him the most was invisibility. He'd assumed that level 5 was the max level like with the Death Axe. But surprisingly, invisibility could still be leveled up. And upon reaching level 5, it gained an additional ability, the power to manipulate stone blocks. If he kept improving, Xu Yuan guessed he'd eventually be able to control even harder materials. He couldn't help but think of him, the legendary entity with the power to move obsidian. Seems like I'm getting closer to becoming the ultimate boss like him. I wonder if I'll get an undead army too? Him's strength, naturally, was unmatched. And then there was his infamous undead army. Figures as powerful as Entity 303, the Dark Lord Null, the Fear Demon, who once nearly killed him, and the Death Knight wielding a lava sword all served under him's banner. Each one of these figures could lay waste to entire worlds alone. Yet all of them followed him. Together, they formed the ultimate legion of evil, the Undead army. Among them, him had the highest renown. And under him's influence, the rest of the Undead army wasn't short on popularity either. If Xu Yuan could actually assemble an undead army in this game world, his journey to become a true Dark Lord would be complete. Though for now, it was just a thought. With his current strength, any one of those legendary figures would crush him in an instant. Xu Yuan shook off the thought and turned his attention back to the creatures before him. They'd only been together a few days, but he'd grown attached to them. Since awakening consciousness, they weren't just lines of code anymore. Each had its own personality. Zombie 007 was calm and reliable, while Little Zombie 520 was mischievous and playful. Little Black 88 was clever, though always with a cheeky grin. Spider 101, which Xu Yuan figured was female, was careful and sociable, getting along well with the other creatures. Little White 233 was a bit of a goof, clumsy and slow. To Xu Yuan, they were each a living, breathing being. Since crossing over into this world alone, they were his only companions. But now, the time had come to part ways. Xu Yuan couldn't keep them with him forever. Doing so would limit his own growth. Besides, these creatures needed to experience the world on their own. He couldn't protect them all the time. As he thought this, Xu Yuan looked at the creatures, feeling a pang of reluctance. But he wasn't one to waver. Once he made a decision, he stuck to it. From now on, you'll fight on your own. Remember your mission and stay sharp out there. Hearing Xu Yuan's words, the creatures that had awakened intermediate-level consciousness seemed to understand they'd be parting with him. Their faces dropped, eyes filled with visible sadness and reluctance. But they dared not defy Xu Yuan's will. Growl, growl, Zombie 007, Little Zombie 520, Spider 101, and the rest with intermediate awareness made a series of guttural noises. It sounded like they were saying goodbye. Xu Yuan stepped forward, patting each on the head, and gave a final reminder. Stay smart out there and keep yourselves alive so I can see you again. After the farewells, Xu Yuan also split up the 1,000 or so wolf pups he'd previously gathered during the battle among the creatures. Wolves were neutral creatures, and Xu Yuan had control over them. Unlocking the wolves' obedience was how he got them to behave in the first place. They'd be more of a hassle to keep around, so he let them accompany the creatures on their journeys as companions. Once the wolves were all assigned, Xu Yuan waved them off. Go on. With his command, the creatures, each leading their own pack of wolves, headed off in different directions. Within 10 minutes, the clearing was empty. Only Zombie 007 lingered. Chapter 38 Goodbye. Once the others had left, Zombie 007 walked a few steps forward, stopping right in front of Xu Yuan. He looked Xu Yuan up and down, like he was trying to memorize every detail. Xu Yuan didn't stop him. Zombie 007 had always been different. His thought process didn't quite align with the other creatures. If Xu Yuan had to explain it, the other creatures were like his pets. But Zombie 007 felt more human. Xu Yuan had always spent more time with Zombie 007. He wasn't like Little Zombie 520, who was always causing trouble. He was calm, quiet, and whenever Xu Yuan did something he'd come over and watch, always keeping a respectful distance. Always watching, silently guarding Xu Yuan. Zombie 007 watched Xu Yuan in silence, his gaze lingering for a good 2 or 3 minutes before he finally let out a low growl. Grr. Xu Yuan could clearly see the hint of reluctance in its eyes. Pointing to the young wolf beside him, Xu Yuan spoke with a tone of authority. Take good care of it, all right? You'll have to return it to me eventually. It was more than a command, it was a subtle reminder. Every time Zombie 007 saw the little wolf, it would remember him. That way, he'd never have to worry about being forgotten. After hearing Xu Yuan's words, Zombie 007 glanced at the wolf pup, then gave a determined nod as if committing to a solemn promise. With a final farewell, it turned and walked away. Watching them disappear into the distance, Xu Yuan felt an odd sense of familiarity. But he couldn't quite place it. Not worth overthinking, he muttered. Somehow, he had a strong feeling that they would meet again someday. And when they did, he was certain that Zombie 007 would be even stronger. He couldn't help but look forward to that day. After saying goodbye to the monsters, Xu Yuan took a deep breath, looking around at the now empty grassland. Back to being on my own. Ever since he'd crossed into this game world, Xu Yuan had grown used to being alone. But the monsters' brief company had broken the silence, and now, with everything quiet again, he felt a bit out of place. Still, solitude was a normal part of life, one he'd quickly adapt to. With things calm again, Xu Yuan decided it was time to plan his next steps. Now that he'd sent the monsters off, it would take some time to see any real impact. After all, this game world was huge, and while there were plenty of players, everyone was scattered all over. It would take a while before the monsters encountered any players. But Xu Yuan couldn't just wait around. His growth couldn't afford to stall. This downtime would be perfect for some prep work. Most of the main world creatures had already given him their first kill bonuses. Now, he just needed to handle the monsters in the Nether and the End. He decided to start with the Nether. He'd get the first kills there, then build some mob farms to keep the resources coming. With his increasing skill level, his old mob farm was barely keeping up. From here on, his demand for intimidation and kill points would only rise, so he'd need more mob farms. Building in the Nether would be more practical than in the main world, especially since no other players had ventured there yet. That way, he wouldn't need to keep everything hidden. With that in mind, Xu Yuan got to work. Half an hour of teleporting later, he found a broken Nether portal. Conveniently, a surface lava pool was nearby. After crafting an iron bucket, he used the lava casting method to make a new Nether portal. Once he lit the portal, the world around him went dark for a second. A wave of dizziness passed, and when he opened his eyes, he was in the Nether. Xu Yuan carefully dismantled the portal behind him and set off in search of any trace of monsters. Meanwhile, not long after Xu Yuan entered the Nether, a group of players gathered around his newly created Nether portal frame in the main world. "Isn't this spot supposed to look different?" one player muttered. "Yeah, last time, there were just a few obsidian blocks here. How did it suddenly turn into a portal frame?" another chimed in. "Could this be something our guild set up?" someone suggested. "No way. Even if we wanted to, we'd need obsidian, and that stuff's impossible to mine," someone else pointed out. "This is weird. Better report it to the guild leader." The players surrounding the portal frame belonged to the Cloud Soar Guild, one of the more well-known guilds in the game. Cloud Soar was originally a large gaming studio founded years ago, with a presence across many popular games. Now it was one of the top 10 guilds in the country, with a solid reputation in the industry. Though the guild was only level 1 right now, they were close to reaching level 2. With the release of Steve's recent base building guide, they were likely to level up soon. The skill level of Cloud Soar players was a cut above many others, especially compared to Victory Guild's members. Most of Cloud Soar's roster were seasoned veterans, longtime studio members, and professional players. By coincidence, Xu Yuan's newly created Nether portal was located in the area where Cloud Soar members had just started their own exploration. The players had stumbled upon the portal's remains just yesterday. Initially, they hadn't paid much attention to the broken portal. After all, they hadn't yet learned about Nether portals. But seeing the changes today, they became intrigued. Without delay, they reported this discovery to the guild leader, Yunfeng. About an hour after the message went out, Yunfeng arrived on a sleek black horse. "What's going on here?" he asked, dismounting. The players quickly filled him in. "Boss, here's the deal. We reached this area yesterday and found some scattered obsidian blocks. There was also a chest nearby. We reported it to you yesterday," one of the players added. Yunfeng nodded, remembering that they'd found the horse's saddle in that very chest. Another player continued explaining. "Yesterday, there were only 5 obsidian blocks, but today, it looks like a complete portal frame." He pointed to the obsidian structure behind him. Yunfeng studied the frame, deep in thought. Then he asked, "Are there any other players in the area?" A guild member shrugged. "In theory, no. But it's hard to say for sure. Yesterday was our first time exploring here, so we don't know for certain. This area was a good hour away from their guild base, so it wasn't a usual spot for Cloud Soar players to hang around." Taking this in, Yunfeng opened his messages and shot a text to the vice leader, Yunli. "How far out are you?" "About 30 minutes away. I'll wait here." After closing his message list, Yunfeng joined the players in examining the obsidian frame. Roughly half an hour later, Yunli finally arrived. Yunfeng relayed the players' report to him. "What do you make of it?" Yunli, who was Yunfeng's younger brother and the guild's vice leader, was known for his sharp instincts and deep understanding of games. He was the guild strategist and had been instrumental in Cloud Soar's growth. After inspecting the frame for a moment, Yunli spoke up. "This obsidian didn't just appear on its own. Someone must have built it, he reasoned. Which means that someone already has a diamond pickaxe. Otherwise, they couldn't have gotten the obsidian. They went through all that trouble to gather obsidian and build this thing, so it's definitely important. He gestured to the frame, adding, judging by the shape, it looks like some kind of door. With Yunli's words, no one had any reason to doubt his analysis. His track record spoke for itself. Yunfeng nodded and asked, so, if it's a door, where does it lead? We tried walking through it, but nothing happened, one of the players mentioned. Yunli smirked, probably a teleportation door or something. It likely needs to be activated. As for how to do that, we'll have to test it out. Nodding in agreement, Yunfeng gave Yunli a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Alright, it's in your hands. Yunli raised his chin, signaling his acceptance. As Cloud Source players busied themselves with testing the portal, the mystery surrounding the obsidian frame only deepened. Chapter 39, Trip to Otherworld. Xu Yuan smoothly collected the first kills for quite a few monsters. Lava immunity, immune to fire, lava, and magma block damage. Throw strike, throws the target into the air upon attack. Wither LV1, causes a wither effect with each attack, health turns black, and loss is less noticeable, dealing 5% damage per second. Upgrade costs 20,000 kill points. Explosive Fireball LV1, launches a fireball that explodes upon contact, power of 1. Destroys blocks with hardness less than 1 and ignites a 3x3 block area. Upgrade costs 20,000 kill points. Fireball Burst LV1, fires 3 fireballs with 50% accuracy and a 30 range attack distance. Upgrade costs 20,000 kill points. Swarm Attack LV1, sets piglins and piglin brutes within a 15x15 range against a designated target. Upgrade costs 20,000 kill points. Xu Yuan liked the nether monster skills so far. Naturally, the 2 fireball skills came from ghasts and blazes. And he had to admit, both were incredibly useful. Now he had 2 long-range attack skills, letting him keep his distance. The ghast's explosive fireball gave him wide-range damage, like having a remote missile launcher. Meanwhile, the blaze's fireball burst acted like a machine gun, rapidly shooting fireballs with improvements to accuracy and range upon leveling up. With these, Xu Yuan no longer had to rely solely on close-range explosions. Then there was the wither effect, which wasn't bad either. It gradually drained health in a way that was hard to detect. As he leveled it, the health drain rate would increase as well. The swarm attack skill, as you'd expect, came from the piglins, though it wasn't particularly useful since Xu Yuan could control monsters directly. Creatures like the zombified piglins and magma cubes didn't yield any special skills. Zombified piglins lacked unique abilities, and the magma cubes weren't much different from regular slimes, just another split skill, which Xu Yuan already had. So, the system ignored it. Even though he'd gained quite a bit, Xu Yuan still felt a bit let down. His main goal in coming to the Nether was to gain a flying skill. He'd hoped defeating a ghast would unlock one, but it looked like that wasn't going to happen. The ghast's ability to fly seemed to be instinctual, not a skill he could obtain. That left Xu Yuan pinning his hopes on the Wither or the Ender Dragon, both boss monsters. It didn't seem too much to ask, right? With that thought, Xu Yuan began planning his next steps. First, I'll get the Wither's first kill. To summon the Wither, he needed 3 Wither skeleton heads placed on soul sand. Wither skeleton head drop rates were only 2.5%, which, let's be honest, was pretty depressing. In Xu Yuan's experience, that 2.5% was a joke. He'd played long enough, even without using a farm, to kill thousands of Wither skeletons, and for him, the decimal point could practically be moved back a place. When it came to collecting Wither skeleton heads, Xu Yuan was an absolute master of bad luck. He'd usually build a Wither skeleton farm to handle this, but now he only needed 3 heads to get the first kill. No point in going through all the trouble. He just needed to hunt down a few on his own. Considering he could one-shot Wither skeletons now and teleport around, his farming rate was pretty high. Even if his luck was awful, a couple of hours should do the trick. With that in mind, Xu Yuan set off to gather the Wither skeleton heads. Yunfei, after researching for half a day, finally managed to activate the obsidian portal. So, all it takes is fire to activate it? The moment he set fire to the portal frame, it flared to life. The space within the frame twisted, glowing with an eerie purple light. Yunli was instantly excited. It's working! Seeing the portal light up, Yunli took a moment to survey the gathered players. After recognizing everyone, he felt more at ease. Alright, everyone here is a guild veteran and part of the elite squad, so you all know the rules, right? Yunli was cautious by nature. This portal was a major discovery for their guild, one that could give them an edge over other guilds. To stay ahead, everyone had to keep this a secret. He'd set this rule long ago, and everyone in the elite squad knew the drill. Don't worry, boss. We understand. We're all on the same page here. Won't let a word slip. We're all guild veterans. We know what to do. Everyone who made it into the elite squad was trustworthy, experienced in the guild's ways. Yunli didn't really need to remind them, but it never hurt to be thorough. Good. Let's go in and check it out. With that, the players followed Yunli through the portal, disappearing one by one into the glowing frame. The members of Yunting Guild found themselves in a dizzying whirl, hit by an intense wave of heat. When they opened their eyes, the sight left them speechless. What the heck? Where are we? Why is it all red and creepy? So hot and stuffy. This place is awful. They quickly checked the map and realized their location. The Nether? So this is a whole other world. Whoa, this game has a place like this? Geez, the monsters here must be insane. What if we can't make it back? It was their first time in the Nether, and the unfamiliar terrain and monsters made them anxious. Yunli assessed their surroundings, then issued a command. Alright, everyone, get ready to explore. I bet this place has some rare loot. After all, it was a new map, accessible only through a portal, so the resources here should be better than those in the overworld. Since they were already here, Yunli was determined to make the most of it. Once they were fully equipped, the players cautiously started exploring. Though they were unfamiliar with the Nether, the elite squad was strong enough to hold their own. As they made their way forward, they encountered several unknown monsters. But as soon as they got a handle on their skills, the team quickly adapted. They continued progressing carefully. About an hour in, a massive structure appeared before them. As they got closer, the building's name popped up on their screens. Nether Fortress? Whoa, this place looks serious. Could this be a boss lair or something? Down that hallway, there's a chest. Yeah, but that creepy black skeleton next to it looks rough. Boss, should we go for it? The elite squad members couldn't take their eyes off the fortress looming over a lava lake. They hadn't even gone inside, but it radiated danger. And yet, seeing the chest down the hallway, they couldn't resist. It was only the second chest they'd seen in the game so far. The first was by the Nether portal, loaded with goodies. They weren't about to let this one go. Yunli thought it over, then made a decision. Alright, let's check it out. He wasn't too confident himself, but at least he had the elite squad with him. Their skills were reliable enough, and even if things got rough, they should be able to escape. Following Yunli's order, the group entered the Nether fortress. Once on the outer hallway, they worked together to take down the wither skeleton guarding the chest. The instant it fell, Yunli noticed it dropped something unusual. He hurried over to collect the item. Wither skeleton skull. What's this? Seeing the drop, Yunli was taken aback. He wasn't sure exactly what it was, but it looked important. The text on its description was highlighted differently, standing out from other loot. Looks like we found something good. Chapter 40 Him is here. Xu Yuan had been grinding down withering skeletons for over an hour, and all he managed to get was one skull. If he knew that Yunli and his team had taken down just one skeleton and already scored a skull, he'd probably be livid. But luck wasn't all bad for him. While exploring the Nether fortress, he randomly stumbled upon a chest and fished out a book enchanted with looting too. Bleak Novel. Checkpoint 2948 to 327,800. Xu Yuan figured he'd enchant his weapon and keep grinding. Only problem, he still needed a few more iron ingots to craft an anvil. So he decided to make a quick trip to the overworld. Just grab some iron, enchant his weapon, and get back to the grind. With that plan in mind, Xu Yuan teleported to the nether portal area, but something felt off. The nether portal was active. Xu Yuan's face grew serious. He distinctly remembered breaking the portal when he entered the nether. Now, if the portal was open again, there was only one explanation. Someone from the overworld had reactivated it. Looks like someone's been here. Xu Yuan was sure of it. He had shut that portal down when he entered. So if it was on again, there had to be another player around. Another player here? He was surprised. He'd picked this spot for how remote it was. Yet, here was proof someone else was wandering these parts. Still, it could work to his advantage. No need to hunt the other player down if they were coming to him. With that, Xu Yuan summoned a clone and hid it within the surrounding netherrack. If another player passed by, they'd likely follow the same path back. All he had to do was watch the portal and wait. If anyone came through, he'd have a lead. After setting up his ambush, Xu Yuan quickly resumed his own mission, heading back to the overworld to gather those iron ingots. Meanwhile, in another part of the nether, boss, this chest has some great loot. A whole enchanted book, 2 diamonds, even a few iron ingots. We hit the jackpot. If the chests out here are this loaded, imagine what's in the fortress. The Cloud Source Guild members were practically buzzing as they looted. Yunli, however, was more interested in the skull he'd snagged from a withering skeleton earlier. Sure, the loot in the chest was great, but he had a hunch the skull was even more valuable. The name was displayed in a different color than the other items, after all. As he studied the skull, another withering skeleton spawned nearby. The guild members jumped into action, quickly surrounding and taking it down. But this time, all it dropped was a piece of coal. No second skull. Yunli grinned. I knew it. This withering skull had to be rare, definitely not something you could grab every time. All right, Yunli called out. 4 of you stay here and keep farming withering skeletons. The rest of us are going to explore the fortress. From the skeleton's quick respawn, it was clear this area was their spawning zone. Yunli had no clue what the skull was for, but something told him it'd be valuable. Couldn't hurt to collect a few more, right? With Yunli's orders given, the guild members quickly split up. Before joining the exploration, Yunli set the skull on the ground and took a screenshot. Then he sent a message to Yunfeng. That obsidian frame we found? Turns out it's a nether portal. We're in the nether now, and we got this thing. I think it's worth something, but no clue what it's for yet. Let the higher-ups figure it out. I'm staying here for now. Too many people back at base. After firing off the message and sending the screenshot, Yunli resumed the task at hand. He was nothing if not cautious, keeping his discoveries under wraps while capitalizing on his head start. Back at the Soar Guild's headquarters, the guild leaders were gathered. The executives leaned over the photo Yunfeng had received, studying the withering skeleton skull with intrigue. This is all we've found in the nether so far. That skull's definitely rare. It has a different color and seems hard to drop. Yunfeng filled the group in on everything Yunli had observed in the nether. This meeting was all about figuring out what that skull might be for. In most games, skulls are used for summoning or rituals. Yeah, probably summoning. One of our guys once made a snow golem using a pumpkin head, right? That's it. This skull might be for summoning a monster. The trick is just figuring out what to place under it. These core members of the guild were experts, top players with a deep understanding of the game. Soon enough, they'd piece together the probable use of the skull. Yunfeng nodded thoughtfully. Right, let's follow this line of thinking. Try placing it on different solid blocks. Since it's a nether item, it's probably compatible with blocks from the nether. We'll take a team back there soon, gather more nether blocks, maybe open up some new territory. As they were discussing a return to the nether, a guild member burst into the room, interrupting their conversation. Yunfeng scowled, ready to reprimand him. But the player looked panicked. Boss? It's him. Him's here. Every executive froze. He's here, someone finally managed. But has he found our base? Is he attacking us? The guild leaders bombarded him with questions, anxious and on edge. The player gulped, catching his breath, and shook his head. No, he's not at the base. Me and a few others were up north, near that open-air cliff mine. We were planning to gather some when we saw him there. The executives finally breathed a little easier, but they weren't about to relax. The mines weren't far from the base, maybe an hour's journey. If him was in the area, finding their headquarters was only a matter of time. They grilled the player further. Did he see you? The player shook his head. No, we hid as soon as we spotted him. We waited for him to leave before coming straight back. Yunfeng asked, are you sure you weren't followed? Absolutely. We hid in a tunnel, dug our way out slowly, and kept to the underground for half an hour to make sure he wasn't around before surfacing. The Cloud Source Guild had learned to be cautious after watching Steve's livestream. Yunfeng and Yunli had drilled it into everyone's heads. If they ever saw him, they had to avoid him at all costs, even if it meant self-destructing to protect their base's location. The guild members had taken these warnings to heart. Upon spotting him, they'd hidden, waited for a safe moment, and then dug an escape route before finally surfacing. They were nothing if not thorough. Yunfeng sighed with relief, but knowing him was nearby, he wasn't about to let his guard down. After relaying the news to Yunli, they strategized for a while and finally settled on a risky but necessary plan.